host, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7 at 365. This is the Sports Roundtable, and we have with us tonight two august Sports Talk Line personalities. We're talking about our own Joshua Griffith. You can find him on Twitter at Joshua Griffith0. Good day, sir.
Giant words. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Dude, I've had nothing else to do all day, you can tell, okay? And then always a pleasure to have the man with zero remorse. You can find him on Twitter at No Remorse Sports. I'm talking about Nate Dowdy.
I absolutely meow to you too, Van.
And that's right. We're going to listen like we play, right? With intensity, something like that. Okay.
Intentionally.
And Joshua, you know, I don't know if you're going to be able to stick around for the whole show, so let's take your little wimp subject and get it up and throw it out there so that we can all trash it. All right, take this bad boy over and drive it, why don't you?
Well, yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the Sports Talk Line Roundtable. It's been a little while since I've been able to join you guys, so I'm really happy to be on this week. A topic you probably didn't think that I would bring to the green room yesterday was UFC 250 and the last couple of cards in general, and just kind of wanted to find out what you guys made of UFC 250 and just the kind of like the main events so far. They've been very one-sided for the most part. So Nate, I know, Nate, I mean, I know you were watching it, you said, and what did you make of UFC 250 and then of the cards?
Well, because I have the Nostradamus stroke in me, I knew from the get-go that the main event was probably going to be one of the worst fights on the actual card. This fight was actually about redemption. This was about Cody Garbrandt finally getting back in the win column. I know Van was watching, and he said to me, hell of a knockout from his bed. So, you know, he was in there in spirit watching it. But, man, Cody Garbrandt getting back in the win column, he was looking like he took a fall from grace. Sean O'Malley got a second win in a row after being suspended for 2 years for some sort of a drug violation. So, yeah, that's really what it's all about. But the biggest pickle that the UFC is in right now is not only are they in the middle of COVID-19 and being one of the only sports venues that actually put on shows, two, their biggest star just retired in Conor McGregor. Whether you believe him or not, he just retired. John Jones is asking for more money and is asking to drop the belt. Jorge Masvidal is doing the same thing over here. Before you know it, they're running out of stars.
Van, I saw you roll your eyes, Van. I want you to talk on this because I know you got something to say about Conor McGregor and his retirement.
Well, yeah, that's like bullshit. Sorry, I just had a piece of meat cut in there.
Gesundheit.
Yeah. No, I just like your original premise, man, because you're talking about there really was no mystery in these matchups. Everybody knows who's going to win. I mean, as they come in, it reminds me of, like, you know, when George Foreman was fighting and he was always the favorite, right? You knew I had to work that in. You knew I had to work that in.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
But no, I mean, it doesn't help the sport. I understand that he has a limited supply. He's trying to cram a lot into a little. He's trotting out what he thinks, but I mean, is this WWE or is this UFC? Come on, give us something worth watching. Just because of sports, yeah, okay, I'm going to watch it because of that. But, you know, there's a bunch of people that aren't going to dial it in because, like you said, where's the really great matchup, man? I mean, you used to have, like, Muhammad Ali and Frazier, man. I mean, they went at it 3 times with each other. It was compelling. How come they can't match up Conor McGregor with you-know-who? Everybody wants to see him fight the Russian again, and they won't make this matchup. Why are they dancing around this? This is ridiculous. I don't like these pancake, vanilla, hand-picked, walk-down-the-aisle matchups. I think it's bad for the sport. Other than that, I don't really have an opinion on it.
You can tell that Van can't pronounce Nabib I can't pronounce it either. I'm just
Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll be the cultured one in the room. God damn it. No, I mean, Khabib doesn't want to fight. He made it quite clear that he does not want to fight Conor until he's felt he's earned it. So he's going to play that card he's dealt as long as he wants. And let's be honest, you're right. Conor McGregor, whether it's boxing or it's going to be getting back in the octagon, that's not the last time he's ever going to compete. He's looking for a challenge, obviously. Doesn't feel like there's a challenge immediately there for him. Until that happens, he'll be retired, but that's not going to be very long.
I danced around not saying the guy's name. You guys danced around the truth. It's not about a challenge. That's a code word for money. That's like a racist, not saying black person and talking around it. It's you recognize the code words. You guys were using the code word for money both times. It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't him being worth it. It's the purse being worth it. Once Dana White decides to pony up, both of these guys will get in the ring. I guarantee it.
I think it's a little bit of a mix of both, actually.
Really?
I mean, Nate looks like he's got something to say on this, but it looks like it's, kind of a mix of money and then also too wanting kind of heavier competition, because I mean, even if you look at Henry Cejudo after his last match, and he's even calling for, well, I'm not getting much money because I'm in a lightweight division, and that doesn't make sense. I'm bringing, action. I'm bringing this. So it's like, if the UFC and Dana White is just going to tie things to 3, 4, 5 names, and they're not really necessarily building the UFC brand. They're building the brands of these people and Dana White.
And then Dana White is continuing to, and then Jorge Masvidal brought up a good point, because they brought up revenue sharing between the other sports leagues, where they get a much higher percentage in other sports leagues like the NFL, NBA, and etc. But they're not even getting a fifth of that. I mean, they're not even getting 20%.
Herb Dean makes more money than some fighters.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, not even Herb Dean, but I'm sure Bruce Buffer makes more.
Yeah, just the brand, that brand, and like Van was alluding to later, he said don't point because you don't know where the fuck we are. But I pointed. Sorry, I used one of these. I used one of our swear words. I used one of them. I'm sorry. I used one. We got one left. We can keep.
No, you don't. That's too much.
I know it's normally Nate that's ruining it, but since I ruined it with that, I will just say, I think the title fights have been a little bit one-sided, and we could use some better fights, like you guys have both alluded to.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as the number one contendership, is what we've noticed. The last 2 times Dana White's made a claim that someone's going to be the number one contender, and that's the fight to make, they just go ahead and skip over them. And it happened once again. They skipped over Colby Covington, gave Kamaru Usman the shot first. That went out. Usman became champion, and so on. And then now they announced the fact that that Gilbert Burns is going to be the number one contender for the belt, even though they said the fight to make was him and Jorge Masvidal. But so they just jumped right over Jorge Masvidal again.
Well, come on. If Jerry Jones can get away for 20-something years, 25 years.
No.
Yeah, pick and run.
Cowboys was not on the topic. Cowboys, I have the topic listed here. Cowboys was not on it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's the same thing. It's 2 snake oil salesmen. I mean, UFC is a real sport. I'll give them that. But, they do compete when they get in the ring, but it's all driven by matchups. So it's not like you can climb the ladder and you can win and you can do whatever. Nah, man, these things are orchestrated. Just like back in the day when the crazy-haired guys were all running everything in boxing. And, it was like picked matchups. And which is another way of saying, like, my guys ain't going to lose because I've got him, fighting a nobody, basically, and either a guy that was too old or too young. It was these hand-picked type matchups. And I think the UFC, if they're going to take the next level, if they're going to take the sport to the next level, they have to look at it with the braveness that, like Pete Rozelle did for football. He said, man, parity. I'm going to give everybody an equal shot. And right now, the UFC still has the boxing roots. It's still basically a shady organization insofar as, the matchups and how they work. That's the way.
That's simply not true, and I think that's what set them apart and made them relevant is the fact that they've had competitive matchups relative to boxing. And probably so far this year, the top fights haven't lived up to the names, but there's been a lot of people, the top names. John Jones hasn't wanted to fight because he wants to be paid for it. Same thing with Jorge Masvidal wants to be paid.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what, that goes back exactly to what Van's saying.
Yes, thank you.
It's not, like the UFC can't, for it to succeed, it can't just all be like, okay, well, when is John Jones fighting next? When's Conor McGregor fighting next? No, there needs to be like a line of, okay, well, these fighters have actually earned their shot by fighting, and give them a shot. Oh, it's not going to make us this much money. It's not going to make these pay-per-view numbers. Well, shit, if you want integrity for your sport, then you have to do it properly.
That's what I'm talking about,
Well, no, they have made these mega fights. And so
they've called for them, and sometimes they get lucky. Sometimes it's a great fight, but a lot of times it's not. And that's because they don't have a system. They don't have a ranking system of having to fight up and beat this guy and beat that guy. You could do it. It could be done. It's not that complicated. And they're not making an effort. They like the system the way it is, where they just rank anybody however they want to rank them, and then make a fight whenever they decide to make a fight. It's all fan base driven, which is what happened to wrestling and drove in underground, and I see this thing on the same slippery slope. Once you let matchups be dictated by who's going to get you the best pay-per-view, then it loses, to me, its sports credentials. It starts to lose them. No matter how hard these guys fight in the ring, everybody's not getting an equal shot, not even near it.
Well, there is such thing as injuries in these sports, and so the show must go on in a lot of times. But I do agree to a certain degree. I don't know why they make certain things like the interim belt. Like, that makes no sense. That just is like putting a belt on someone for no reason. It takes legitimacy away from an actual match, in my opinion.
That goes towards the WWE gimmicks that, that Van kind of mentioned, he's the interim champion of the world. And, and just so they can have Bruce Buffer announce that he's the interim champion of the world,
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, well, look, let's move this subject on down the road, man. Nate, you've got a pretty good one. Speaking about singular subject, there's another guy that might be fighting a battle in Minnesota, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Dalvin Cook is holding out for the Minnesota Vikings, just announced earlier this morning, I believe. And anyway, what do you do if you are the Minnesota Vikings?
I think it's proven what they do. They trade you to Buffalo, right?
Yeah, that already happened once. That was a receiver.
Well,
there's got to be something. There's got to be something going on inside the Minnesota Vikings locker room in regards to like receivers or something. Because does Thielen have the run of the game? The show get out of here. This is my team kind of deal. Because it doesn't seem you saw Stephon Diggs get traded away, and then you get Dalvin Cook coming in. You think, it's going to be a good fit. He's going to fit well with the team. He's going to add another weapon. And then, we're getting more of the same.
Yeah, I think you let Dalvin Cook hold out. I think there's no way in hell you make a deal. The guy has played 3 years in the league so far and hasn't played in a full 16-game season yet. He hasn't played in any more than 12 except for one. And he's only been he's been productive 1 year so far. Do you reward a running back, particularly when they have a limited shelf life, with a new contract just based off of 1 year? No.
Let me ask you this, Nate. I mean, doesn't he remind you of this year's Melvin Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, he's better than Melvin Gordon, but I mean, I think the Minnesota might buckle. That's the thing. I think they might see what I don't think is a smart thing, because they got the Denver Broncos old coordinator and Gary Kubiak, who's their offensive coordinator this year. And he's one of those guys who can plug any running back into their system and get 1,000 yards. So if I was them, I would not sweat whatsoever. They got a productive rookie from the year before who averaged 4.6 yards an attempt. So I like their chances. Let them hold out.
All right. I mean, I'm all right now. I understand that is the team's perspective, but Josh, flip it over from the player's perspective. Do you blame him? He's a running back. If he doesn't do everything he can to get his money right now, he's in trouble, right?
Yeah, it seems like the trend right now. I mean, we just saw Gurley do it, to some extent. Ezekiel Elliott did it. It just seems like, running backs are wanting to take advantage of the rare and short window that they have in the NFL. I know Spinksy was kind of bringing it up in the chat in the green room a little bit about, he just thought that Minnesota kind of passed on a good running back in the draft. That could have been, maybe an answer to their solutions. I don't have the name here. I didn't bring it up.
That's Madison. He's on the team. That was the guy I was talking about that got drafted the year before.
Yeah. So, you even look at that, it's like, well, I kind of want to get paid now. And you're almost always going to be able to find the team like the New York Jets or, the Miami Dolphins or the Browns that are just going to throw some money at you and they don't even care. They'll make a mistake. So.
Yeah, and that's the way I look at this. I see both sides of an argument. I don't blame the team for saying, you know what, no, thank you. And I don't blame the player for swinging for the fences, man. This is a business.
Yeah, it's the only way he's going to get paid out of it too, because what's going to happen is he wasn't a first round pick. So next year is going to be his year to make a bunch of money. And let's say they like his production next year. They could easily franchise tag him, which puts on a long-term deal on the back burner further and further.
So it's a mess, either way it goes. I have to agree with you, Nate. I think the team should hold out and see what happens. This is a screwy season anyhow. And, there are some free agents that running back available. There's always some running backs available, aren't there?
Yeah, it's the easiest position to replicate just because it's just simple. It's a simple game of tag, essentially, is how I heard a running backs coach describe it one time, and that's why it's so easy for these running backs from college to make an immediate production, because that's what the position is, play a game of tag.
Yeah, Tom Landry said that was the easiest position to transfer from college, was the running back, because it was so instinctual. There wasn't a whole lot you could really teach them, just teach them your plays and stuff, but ultimately they got to be able to run, right? Okay, well, speaking of possible replacements, man, I'd like to ask you, this is the NFL looks like one of the leagues that might get the best run at a meaningful season this year, and there's still a lot of free agents out there that are available, and I'd like to talk to you about a few of them and ask you about them. And Josh, start with you. One of the big names out there that's available, and I'm curious why. I've got my reasons. What about yours? And I'm talking about the former Carolina Panthers QB, Cam Newton. Talk about your big talent available. He's there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of question marks in regards to Cam Newton's overall health. Just that, if he can really throw the, not even just his arms, his legs, just his mobility, if he's going to be that, MVP, Super Bowl, lead your team to the Super Bowl caliber quarterback that he used to be in the past. And then also too, as a team, I can't really see a team right now taking him on as a starting role. So that kind of sets up, like you mentioned before in the other situation, kind of like an unbalance between the player and the organization. So, I could very well see him having several talks with different teams. I could see him being a very good fit with the Seahawks. Could see him being a very good fit with the Ravens, things like that. But it would come down to, does he want to take that low second string contract?
I think at the end of the day, Cam Newton's, I think he wants to start, and I think he should start. I think he'd be an excellent fit. I know Tyrod Taylor is liked a lot in LA, but let's put it to this. I mean, who would you rather have start you a game, Cam Newton or Tyrod Taylor? I mean, the answer is Cam Newton. And actually, you might like this.
You can go down the list of people I'd rather have Cam Newton starting my team.
Yeah, you know what? This might not be a popular answer, but you know what I think would be an outstanding fit would be with the Rams.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, what's that?
Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick for Cam Newton? No, I think the Rams would make a great fit because I think you get him I think he's the starting quarterback by the end of the year if he's with the Rams.
Ooh, wow.
What kind of garbage are you spewing on Tuesday?
Oh,
Is this the normal garbage that you guys spew on the Roundtable?
Didn't you say he had some new edible he was working before the show?
Yeah, Cam Newton.
No. I mean, if you're going to have to search for Jared Goff, you have to search in the trash. So.
Oh.
That's
all right.
terrible.
Well, there is that. Wow.
Okay, you got to throw it back to me on this one, Matt. To even say that Cam Newton would go to LA and take over the starting role for Goff.
Yeah. Do you think he'd be able to hold him off?
Oh, he'd be a better position. He'd be a better fit in Dallas.
If he used his arm, he could, because he's a big guy.
Yes, he would be a better fit. He's more closer to a quarterback like Dak Prescott. He would be a better fit in Dallas to replace Dak Prescott. So Dallas should probably just go bye-bye and sign him for $3 or $4 million a year.
Why? But we already have someone backing him up. Who's backing up Jared Goff?
I think you're onto something there, Josh. I think if his arm is good enough, okay, if it is, then yeah, I think he's a much better signing than Andy Dalton for the Dallas Cowboys.
Who cares if his arm's good enough? Dallas's receivers wouldn't catch the ball anyway.
So, but I don't think his arm is any good. I think his arm is trash. I think he's a bad signing. I think he's going to be unsigned, into the season unless somebody gets hurt because he's a big-time talent, but he's got issues, man. I have solid information that he had more operations than he's even sharing with us. It's bone on bone is what I'm hearing. And when you look at his performance, that's about how he's playing, like a guy who's in pain. I mean, he's toughing through it. He's impressive. And the other thing I get from it is that this guy's in it for the money. He wants cheddar. And so he's holding out for a big payday because he knows it's over. So
yeah, I mean, I really don't know how healthy he is. I mean, and that's only to league doctors.
All right, well, let's flip to a different free agent here. And Josh, I'm going to go down with you again there. Clowney, okay? This is a guy that, is healthy, but has never been accused of being a football-first guy. He's just a guy that's super talented, works hard, nothing wrong with that. He's fine in the locker room. He's not a problem off the field. But he's never had a fire lit under him like a J.J. Watt or something of that nature. So, but he does like to cash those checks. What do you think is going to happen to him? Who do you think is a great fit for him? Because the man can play.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of someone who likes to cash their checks, I thought really J.D. Clowney was, has had a good couple seasons and could have been a good fit. Staying kind of where he was, but obviously, like you said, he wanted the cheddar cheese, he wanted the money, so he wanted to test things. But this is a weird one for me because I could see him being in a fit in so many different teams and so many different organizations because, like, of the things you said, he's not a problem off field, he's not a problem in the locker room. I don't know. It's a very weird free agency this year. I could see a team kind of on the fringe, maybe a team like, Las Vegas, the Raiders, kind of wanting to solidify things a little bit more, or, even Tampa, maybe even Tampa.
Yeah, he's the player that a team is going to take on when they think they're maybe a situational pass rusher away. Yeah. So I think that's his market right now, because he's a guy, even last year with the Seahawks, wasn't practicing through the week, and he'd basically just show up on game day. Wasn't even that productive as a pass rusher, did most of his damage as a run defender. And so, yeah, I don't think a team's going to want to take him on as an every down player. That just would be foolish. And so originally his market was in the $20 million range, and it's gone kind of below 15 as of right now, because I've heard he's turned down a contract with the Browns for around 15.
Yeah, but the Browns would actually want him to play. So, I think that's an issue there. And that's what I'm hearing. But, I mean, there's no doubting, again, his talent. It's his motor, right?
Yeah, I mean, he has motor about one. That's all he's really good for at this point. I mean, he has a degenerating knee. So and
what it is. There's a reason these guys are on the list. But one guy that I'm really not sure is on the list, and to how he got on the list, when he got on the list, and why he got on the list. And that's a guy who's been an all-pro the last 3 seasons, offensive guard Larry Warford. He was with, and they just cut him. And it's like at a weird time. And it's like, why? Is there a medical issue? Because I've checked and nobody can find anything medically, and there's nothing about like, the cops called and wanted to check out child porn on his computer. Nothing like that, man. Nothing. Oh no, that was your name. Okay, no, that was nothing like that. Have you guys heard anything? And getting past that, what would be the great fit for this guy? Because I mean, just about anywhere.
Yeah, well, with New Orleans, they drafted, they had a guy start 16 games for him at center last year, and then they drafted another center in the first round with Cesar Ruiz.
Right.
And I think the plan was they thought he was a good enough plug-and-play guy, so they're probably going to kick one of those guys to left guard, making basically Larry Warford, a luxury player. So they cut him. But
I think I'd inexpensive. They saved a lot of money by cutting.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd be a great fit in Dallas. I mean, they have an unsuspecting left guard at the moment, and also he tore his ACL in December of last year, so that'd be an easy spot for them to shore up on the offensive line.
Well, actually, he's not a mobile guy. He's a power rush, a power blocker, right, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, he's better in a run-oriented offense. I'd like to see him go to the Rams. Obviously, they don't have the kind of money that they would need to sign someone like him. I could see him maybe going to the New York Giants. Obviously, they're obviously going to want as much help on the offensive line, especially with their draft this year. They're going to want a solid, veteran to come in and help with the younger guys and shore things up, for their offense.
What about either the Titans or the Buccaneers?
The Buccaneers for sure. I mean, they could use all the help. They need all the lads on deck.
I think realistically, any free agent that you go ahead and mention right now, the Bucs are in play for, just with their cap space and situation. No.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Dude. Oh, yeah.
You'll be starting by the end of the year, Josh.
I'm sorry. I just wiped that whole conversation when Nate said that garbage about, he's going to be the Rams starter by the end of the year.
He would.
No.
He would totally. Jared Goff is going to get benched by the end of this year. Yes. I scared the boy away.
Boy, there it is. I mean, wow. He didn't. There was no listening to that line of BS, obviously.
No, that's what I think about that.
Mama said knock you out. That's
okay.
A man.
Are we moving on to another free agent?
Okay, now the new subject is what kind of drugs has been Nate doing lately, and is he going to share them? Okay, now
clear mind.
All right, so that's actually it on the free agents, and there's one last free agent that I wanted to bring in. I flipped his name up there earlier to see if anybody would bite, and nobody did. I don't want to get hung up on this and take all day. Let's hit it, offer a straight-up opinion, and then work it back around the room. Basically, we've already had more than one NFL executive come out and say, yeah, Cam Newton was more talented than other guys on the board. They specifically didn't sign him because of the issues. But now the NFL has come out and said what they've said, that they were wrong, okay? Now, with that on as setting up this question, let's just, I'm not asking whether or not the NFL would blackball him or not. I'm saying, let's say right now that the NFL calls up teams and said, hey, man, first guy that signs him is a winner, all right? Where would be a good fit for him?
You said Cam Newton, but it sounds like you're talking about Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Yes, Colin Kaepernick. Excuse me.
I think a great spot would be, I think a great spot would be Baltimore. And Baltimore, for the reason being, when you look at Colin Kaepernick's greatest success in his career, his offensive coordinator was Greg Roman, and who happens to be the offensive coordinator in Baltimore. I think that'd be a tremendous fit.
I like that. I like that a lot because I think he would slide right in there. He can run the football. You know, matter of fact, some would say towards the end that was his more effective skill, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Josh, what do you think?
Well, I do think that would be a good fit for him. I don't think that he's going to kind of move ahead of RG3 on the depth chart. I mean, he's already been there for a year. He's really comfortable with that offense. But I'm hearing a lot of things actually coming out of the great green Northeast from the Seattle Seahawks about maybe signing Colin Kaepernick as a backup to Russell Wilson.
I like that fit as well. I like that. I mean, there's a lot of places that he would fit as a solid backup, right?
Yeah.
Kansas City, I mean.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Kansas City would be an awesome fit. Matter of fact, out of all, of course, probably the Rams, right, Nate? Because, I mean, he could be starting.
No, I think that would be, I think that would be.
Oh, yeah, by the end of the season.
Yeah. He might. I mean,
you got to start sharing that stuff, Nate. You really do. But actually,
logic. Yeah, I should.
let's throw that in here. Last question of the round table as we work it around, and we're going to let you start off, Josh. All right, Jared Goff. Did not have a great season last year or the season before, actually. I mean, he's had some issues, and they've been exposed. His biggest issues, to be frank, are lack of a running game and lack of an offensive line, but and a defense that is less and less talented, that's not giving him fantastic field position. But after you get past that, him being a first-round pick, I mean, the guy that was drafted where he was, okay? Isn't he supposed to make the guys around him better, and is he doing that right now?
Well, we didn't have it on topic, but I love that we're going to talk some Rams right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Jared Goff. First off, I want to correct you on Jared Goff not having a good couple seasons, because if I'm correct, the Rams lost in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But so last season, yes, 9-7, didn't make the playoffs in the best division in football. Tough year for the Rams. In the year before his Super Bowl season, they made the divisional playoffs and lost to the Falcons. So realistically, not too bad of a first three starts. Last year was a tough year. People were starting to figure out Sean McVay. They had Todd Gurley, who couldn't run the ball because of his debilitating knee. They were able to luckily save the $5.5 million on his contract, and Atlanta can do what they want with him. I guess he's working out great, but again, we'll see. In a couple of games. Jared Goff, I think, has done a great job as a quarterback. He's learning. There wasn't an offensive line for him last year.
No.
If you look at his overall outlying numbers, in regards to like passer rating and rating and things like that, overall rating, he didn't have that bad of a season. He had better stats than Tom Brady last year when it came to those underlying things. I don't think that he's the problem. I think fixing the offensive line and maybe really Sean McVay kind of actually having a running game to work with this year.
So what do you say, Nate? I mean, I hear what Josh has said. A lot of it makes sense. I mean, is that it? Or do you kind of cut him some slack? Because playing the 49ers twice, that's not going to help your stats as a QB.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've seen like when he's a 7-on-7 quarterback is the thing. He could torch you when he has time to throw. I mean, he could torch you. Yeah. But with that being said, he's not a guy who's going to be able to extend plays on his own. And that's a necessity from a quarterback in today's game. So if you're going to get an efficient play from Jared Goff, you're probably going to have to get a strong run game going, and you're going to have to make sure he doesn't face any pressure. And so far they've done that with their draft pick in the second round, the guy from Florida State. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the Rams, to answer your question more directly, no, he's not the issue. He's just the guy. They need good players all over the place there.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect storm. I agree with you, Josh. I think it's a combination of all those things. Tough division, a lot of Sean McVay tape out there now, so people know come at him. And then the whole team was just weaker across the board. But more importantly, just like in baseball, when the pitcher comes around the league the second time, people got that film on him. And with Goff, he was trying to find out a new way to win, and he did not have as much time. McVay is going to have to find an offense that's going to create time for him to throw the ball. Play action, well, heck, that wasn't working because Gurley wasn't scaring anybody, and Brown wasn't having as good a season as he was the year before. McVay was struggling, I thought, more than Goff. But I also saw some overthrown balls, a little lack of confidence. But hey, that happens, as any Rams fan knows. I mean, remember Chrissy Everett back in the day? Oh, excuse me, that's an old story. But I mean, the Rams are famous for it. What, Nate?
I said meow to you again. Your cat was speaking up when.
Well, yeah, he's getting his nuts cut off in a few days, so he's just letting it all out, man. He's letting it all out,
Poor guy.
You doing the procedure?
Oh man, yeah. And Caitlin said, "Well, you got to take him." I said, "No, I'm not going to take him. No, you can take him, but I'm not going to take him. No, you can't ask a guy to take another guy to do that." Yeah, no. It's not happening. It's a smart thing to do. You need to do it. This is actually a stray cat that we gathered in and brought him into the home mainly so we could have this done to him. And now we ended up, he's going to be with us forever. We're suckers. We're fools.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. We're stupid.
Good on you guys.
I know. Well, hey, that's it for the roundtable. It always end up on a rousing question. For people listening, you really ought to figure out how to do this backwards because some of our best stuff is at the end, without a doubt. So before everyone goes, be sure and hit that notify bell. Be sure and hit the subscribe, then the notify bell. If you can do it the reverse way, impressive. And as we go around, Joshua, please tell the people a little bit about your show that you have and are doing, and it's doing quite well, I might say.
Yeah, so everybody can check out the Unnamed Sports Show that is on every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. I have no clue what time Australian time. I think it's like 8 the next day. But make sure to check that out. I got great guests. This week we're going to talk a lot of hockey. I got Ken Reed from Sportsnet, an author of Hockey Card Stories. True stories, from hockey players, all about their hockey card story experiences. And then also I have Adam Reed from the East Coast Hockey League from the Brampton Beast to talk a little bit of the Ottawa Senators, things going on, and just hockey in general as well. So they can check that out.
Always a pleasure. And hey, people, as they're talking, you can check the Twitter name is right down here in the corner of each person's screen. And that way you can follow them on Twitter. Please do. Mr. Nate Dowdy, sir.
Thank you. You can follow me at No Remorse Sports. No spaces, straight down the line. You got it there.
All right, and we have a heck of a lineup. Be sure and check on the site for when we're having all of our shows. We have Spinksy with the college football. We have all the sports that you care to follow with Mr. Joshua Griffith. And then, of course, myself, primarily the NFL, and, of course, Mr. Nate Dowdy, who covers whatever he damn well pleases. All right? Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, listen like you play with intensity. Bye now.